If the only thing people learn was to not be afraid of their experience, that alone would change the world. And what today's episode can help you with, letting go of what you cannot control and sorting out your thoughts to notice what's fact and what's fiction. As always, I'm grateful for you to be here. Please don't forget, like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Here we go. So, have you ever felt your anxiety rise the moment someone asked you to do something new or different until you did the new thing and then you found it wasn't so scary as you thought it was? Or have you ever had an argument with a loved one and then later found out you were both saying the same thing, just from different perspectives? Well, today we're talking about resilience, what it is and how you can strengthen your resilience. Hi, I'm Beth Hildebrand, CEO and founder of Resilient Stars Marketing. Welcome to my channel for another episode of Beth Talks, where I share all the things that help shape my life for the better. And now it is imperative to understand that we all have a program, that it is reprogrammable, that it is sometimes beneficial, this program we have and carry with us. Sometimes it's not beneficial at all. But paying attention to it will improve your life unmeasurably in the long run. This is a quote from Being Resilient, Business Know-How for Ordinaries. And today we have the author with us, Swier Miedema. Hopefully I said that right. Founder, solutions architect, transformative human practitioner of Swier's coaching. He is transforming business through understanding the human mind. Consciousness creates choice. And Swier joins us all the way from the Netherlands today. And we're going to talk about his upcoming book, Being Resilient, Business Know-How for Ordinaries, an alternative way to elevate our experience. About the infallible logic of continuously creating our experience through our consciousness, thinking, senses, understanding of our experience, conclusions we draw, and behaviors that we show. This book will provide insights to how to deal with our experiences, stop shooting ourselves in the foot like I do all the time, and increase our understanding of how to forego disappointments permanently. Join us today as we discuss the basics of the Sydney Banks 3 principles taught by Liana Ebensken. I'm probably saying that wrong.
It's
A
okay.
successful entrepreneur, bringing you to a deeper understanding of human kindness and finding our forgiveness within ourselves. We are all continuously confronted with an increasingly volatile society, sometimes experienced as a heavy burden. This volatility has its effect on our stress levels, our ability to perform, our way of treating other people, our well-being, and our loved ones.
Right.
Ware wrote this book to help people better handle sometimes confronting circumstances in life and ease their day-to-day experiences. In that way, anyone's suffering can be lessened. In this Sydney Banks' own words, if the only thing people learn was to not be afraid of their experience, that alone would change the world. By Sydney Banks. Check that out at sydneybanks.com, sydbanks.com. And what today's episode can help you with, letting go of what you cannot control and sorting out your thoughts to notice what's fact and what's fiction. Swier, thank you so much for being here today and taking your time to talk with us about this book of resilience, something I greatly admire. Resilience is what's got me through my life up to this point. But most trainings focus on changing behavior. In your leadership training, you approach things from the opposite side, which I find very interesting, using behavior to indicate how people experience, think, and feel about an issue. Now, this is crazy. You're going to tell me how to learn to increase my resilience, and now you're telling me to do nothing. Can you explain why our first response should be to do nothing?
Hi, Beth. Wonderful to be here, and thank you very much for that. Um, yes, I think I can. The funny thing is that as soon as we experience anything, our thinking comes in. So if I take a sip of my tea, I instantly notice whether it's too hot or not too hot. It's okay. It's tasting well, or so on. I'm immediately judging that it's a thing, and that gives me a certain feeling. If it's okay, it's fine. If it's too hot, I'll burn my tongue or something like my lips or something like that, and I'll be distraught. So as soon as we experience anything, our thinking and feeling kick in. And our thinking and feeling create our behavior. And that's generally known throughout psychology. The funny thing is, psychology tried to measure in the past, when they started, they tried to measure first to try to to qualify what's the soul doing, because psychology means learning of the soul. But the soul is pretty hard to measure. So they switched to feelings. Feelings are also very hard to measure. So they ended up in the end at behavior. Behavior is fairly easy to measure or to ascertain what the behavior is. So they focused on behavior, and that caused an immediate flow in the direction of the behavior. So if you change your behavior, you change someone's actions, and that's true in a way. But the problem is, before you have a behavior, you think and you feel about that. And you can immediately notice when you are a leader, for instance, in an organization, and you have a certain choice to make to do something or to go in a certain direction. Maybe you notice in your team that not everyone's as committed to the choice you made. So you can notice directly to see what's going on there in the behavior of the people. And I'm not trying to change the behavior because that's the end result of the whole process. So what you're actually doing, you're focusing on the symptoms and not focusing on the cause. So if you use behavior as an indicator of what's going on in the thinking and the feeling of the person who is concerned with that, you can have a lot of information of what's going on there, and so you can ask questions. Maybe you find something you've overseen as a leader. Could be. No leader is faultless. So it could be very easily that you've overseen something. And then you could get a very interesting conversation with that person because he saw something you didn't see, and it could save you a lot of money or a lot of effort or a lot of stress, and you could carry on much easier. And at the same time, the person who was more or less obstructing the situation is now in your ball game, is now working with you instead of against you. So it's a much more practical and much more effective way of looking at leadership.
Yeah, what I like about this is it's so completely different than traditional way of thinking because anytime you have a habit or something that you want to change about your actions, starting with behavior sometimes can be really frustrating
Yeah.
because and then you beat yourself up and get into this cycle of sabotage because you want to make these changes, but due to procrastination or fear or um, lack of confidence or whatever the case may be, you don't change the behavior because you
No.
don't know where those thoughts are coming from. So in your approach, you look at the behavior as a sort of a symptom of the real problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so looking at it that way kind of makes you feel like, oh, okay, well, I'm I can kind of let go of some of that guilt for doing this behavior over and over again because it's not the behavior that I want to change, it's the transformative thoughts behind the behavior. And it kind of, to me, anyways, it makes you feel like you have a little bit more control over your thoughts than you do your behavior. Because, like, for example, procrastination is one of
Mhm.
those things that I hate that I procrastinate and I hate to let things go to the last minute. Um, but why are you procrastinating? And I've seen oftentimes that procrastination is a symptom of depression.
Yes, could be.
So
Uh,
that's just like one of those examples of, well,
mhm.
you procrastinate because there's something deeper going on.
Absolutely, and that's worth investigating, because there must be a reason why you are procrastinating. What we forget very often is that our brain has only one goal, and that goal is to keep your body safe. Your body, mind you. And what comes along is that our brain, those 3 pounds of brain tissue, use about 20% of all your energy when you do nothing. When you're lying in bed at night, that's the only way they can measure it. Um, and when you lie in bed, you use 20% of your energy. As soon as you start doing something like we are talking now, my brain is using a multiplication of that. And that worries your brain, because then it says, wait a minute, there's not enough energy for the rest of your body to well, to guard all the processes, your heartbeat, your breathing, your well, all what's going on in your body. And it's a big system, of course. So it's saying, wait a minute, let's cut that. So it sends you information that you should stop. That's why learning is so hard. Learning something new is so hard. Your brain is actually stopping you because it hasn't any idea of what you are thinking. It
Because it's
sounds
just a
crazy.
program.
It's just a program. It's just a program which keeps you alive. And it, as as far as the brain goes, it likes you to sit in the corner. But then at some stage you'll find, wait a minute, I'm getting stiff now, and I'm hungry, and I want to eat something. So your body says, okay. Your brain says, oh, let's try to find something to eat, and then you start getting active again. So that it's very directed at your physical processes and not at your mental processes. And the
Well,
funny thing is, science has been studying at mental processes, the thinking we do, our consciousness, and they cannot find it in our brain. They have been looking at that for tens of years, and they cannot find it. And it's very curious. They're very curious because consciousness is a very interesting subject now in science, and they cannot find it where it happens. Not in our
hmm.
body, at least. So it is more or less dislodged from our physical experience. But the funny thing is, you get hunches from your brain. You should sit down because you're using too much energy, or you're tired, or you want to eat something. I don't know. But that's what your brain is telling you, and the mix of that information is sometimes quite difficult to find. What is from your brain and what's from your thinking?
Yeah, it's hard to sort that out. Now, why is it you think that naturally our brain tends to offer us the worst case scenario?
Oh, that's has everything to do with safety. Our brain has only one goal, is to keep you safe. So if you're going to do something riskful, like um, bungee jumping, for instance, your brain is going to scream, "Don't do that," because that's very dangerous, and you shouldn't. And you can see that with people who are trying this for the first time. I haven't done it ever, but I'd like to do it once, but my wife won't have me. But people who do that, they feel scared, and I think I would be scared too when you're standing at the abyss and you're standing there and you're going to jump in. I think I have to overcome my fear, of course, because my body is telling me you cannot do this because this might kill you. And that's not the intention of your brain. So it's telling you, no, don't do that. That's why people freeze. That's why we have freeze, fight, or run flight reactions to stress, for instance.
Yeah, that makes sense. So anything new is a threat to your brain.
Yes, and the other hand is we are animals of habit. A habit is easy because if I have to think about how to pick up my cup of tea every time, nothing would come out of my hands. So it's very useful to know I can pick up my cup anytime and it won't fall out my hand. But if I have to think about it every time, it'll be a waste of time. But the funny thing is, if we try to apply that to people, then something strange happens because then I'm not there anymore because I'm doing something in a program and I'm not really actually in communication with the other person I'm doing it to. And children notice that instantly. They instantly know you're not there. And then they come here, Dad, I want to talk to you. And then they grab my face and, and hold it like that and say, Dad, come on, I want to talk to you, you're not there. Yeah, you're right. And then I'm caught, and then but the problem is the habitual activities are such a big part of our lives that we often try to do it everything in the habitual because it's easy to do.
Hmm.
It saves energy as well.
It's a
So
lot harder to force some new thought when your brain
yeah,
is trying to reject it.
yeah, and the other thing is also you have to make new connections in your brain to do something new. So you have to add synapses to each other to make sure that the process is programmed into your brain, really. And the
Hmm.
funny thing is, that's why habits are so hard to overcome. It is more or less fixed programming.
Hmm.
And what we have certain cells in our brain which maintain that process. But they clean it overnight, and as long as you don't use it very much, it will be cleaned at some stage. And what happens then is that you can lose a habit, but it's sometimes it's hard to do because it's so much easier just to roll into the automatic program.
That's why they say it's hard work. Healing is hard work, or making changes or changing your lifestyle is hard work. It's not physical work, it's brain power work.
Yeah, it is.
You're having to force your brain to accept something that it doesn't want to accept.
Absolutely, and a large part of our thinking is non-helping thoughts. Those are the thoughts which try to prevent you to do some to prevent you to do something. Is okay. Don't run off the stairs, for instance. Just as simple because you might fall. So do it with more ease and more quietness. And yes, of course. But sometimes when you're in a hurry, you have to go and get down quickly. So you run down the stairs. Um, but your brain is protesting that and trying to prevent that. And it gives you a feeling that it's not okay. And the funny thing is, when you get a feeling that something is not okay, it makes you feel awful. You're going to try to solve it, and it won't happen because you can't solve it at that moment, and because you have to run that down the stairs, for instance. And it'll cost you lots of energy. And afterwards, you'll be thinking, what was I thinking? Why was I running downstairs? There was no necessity. I was thinking it wasn't necessary, but there wasn't any. What was going on? And the funny thing is, once you start to understand that every less than neutral thought is not really helping you unless it's a crisis, you suddenly find that you gain about 30 to 50% of your thinking.
Mm.
And it sounds a bit strange, but if you learn to ignore those non-helping thoughts more, suddenly some extra space opens up and you get clearer thinking because you stop thinking about the things that don't help you and you start thinking about the things that help you.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny thing is then suddenly what happens when you are stressed, for instance, you try to focus on that thing which is stressing you out. And what happens is that you are putting on blinders for yourself and trying to focus on yourself on that thing you want to solve, which possibly you can't solve right away. You need some time, you need to think about it, and so on and so on. But at the same time, you close out all the other influx of information about that situation because you put on your own blinders. When you
Mm.
open that up, you suddenly see more opportunities. And you suddenly see, wait a minute, I can solve it like that. And almost magically, something just dissolves.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny thing about that is then once you learn not to worry too much about non-helping thoughts, which are most of the time coming from your brain, which is trying to restrict you or trying to do something, to not do something, you see what you can do, which makes you much more productive, which makes you much more happy about things to do. And things like, well, you lighten up, actually. When I was 2 years into this understanding, that was in 2020, I suddenly found that my thinking more or less stopped, or part of it at least. One morning, suddenly went quiet in my head. And we all know that big brow span which is playing there all the time and commenting on, oh, how can you do that? Well, you're just a stupid idiot, why are you doing this? And so on and so on. And he's talking about the monkey on your shoulder, you call it also, and well. But the funny thing is, at some stage, it stopped. One day it just stopped. And at first I was shocked. Wait a minute, what's going on here? My thinking has stopped. Is my brain broken? What happened? And then I realized, wait a minute, this is exactly what I wanted to achieve. Because now I can spend time with the things which are worthwhile to spend time on and just discard all the rest, which is not worthwhile. And the funny thing is, now I do less in less time with much more effectiveness. So I have a much easier life
Those
now.
negative things, the negative talk, the wasting your time, that
Yeah, it's
chatter is now almost un, un, unrecognizable because you've been able to take
for
practice
some
over a
reason,
couple of years and
yeah.
sort out what's real and what's not. As far as your thoughts go, you've been able to kind of take control over what you want to
Well, yeah,
emphasize and what you don't.
our brain can learn stuff very quickly. There's this beautiful little video from Professor Arnold Seth. He's an English scientist, and he's doing research into the consciousness. He has a wonderful video on from a TED Talk. It's called "We Will Hallucinate Our Way Our or We Hallucinate Our Way Through Life," something like that. It's and it's what he shows there. He's letting people hear a distorted sound bite, and then at some stage he plays it again, but then it's not distorted. Then you can hear what he actually said, and then he plays it again with the distorted version. Then you suddenly understand what he's saying. It's the same as what they do on Facebook, for instance. They have text where they leave the vowels out, and you can still read what's there. Your brain can calculate that, can figure that out. And the funny thing is, as soon as you learn not to worry too much about your non-helping thoughts, unless it's a crisis. And we are very good at handling crises because we have been, as a species, here for 2.5 million years. We are dominating this planet. Not always in the right one, the best way, but we are dominating the planet. So we're pretty good at dealing with the moment, dealing with the crisis. Or we're the most successful species, really, in that.
Why
And
does it get, I'm sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
it's okay.
Why does it
Uh,
get harder as we get older? Because in your book, you talk about, a baby takes 500 steps before they start to learn to walk again.
yeah,
But we just are given a new task at work and we just think it's the end of the world. Why is it so much harder the older we get to try to learn new things and
yeah. We were taught in the wrong way. When we start learning to walk, and yes, the average child needs on average 500 efforts to start to be able to walk. But the funny thing is, then you go to school at some stage, or maybe kindergarten, whatever. Anyway, you go to school, and then you get valued because of the fact that you are doing things right. So you're taught to think and act in a certain way, which is not often really constructive. But we have rather free minds which can combine all kinds of stuff in all kinds of creative ways. And we have a lot of people who cannot come along with the schooling system because they are taught in a specific way, and it's not their way of thinking. And that leads to all kinds of conflicts and situations. And we get that throughout our lives because we have been taught to do that in a certain way, which is not always constructive. We are natural learners. We are very good at picking up stuff just like that. And why not keep it that way? Yes, of course, it can't be institutionalized in a school, of course. That makes it much more difficult. But on the other hand, this brain we have is so flexible, is so creative. We can do a lot more with that than we do now because we are constricting ourselves in that certain way. And it's based on praise.
Mm.
It starts with when you are when you are well 1.5, 2 years old, when you start walking, maybe 1 year old, when you start walking and your parents are over the moon because you are walking. And of course, it's no small feat that a child start to walk. But at that moment, the child draws the conclusion, okay, when I want to feel happy, I have to do something my vicinity likes, the people around me like. And that's entered year after year after year after year because you go to school and then you write a letter properly, you can write an E properly. And the teacher comes to, oh, you did that nicely, so here you have a sticker. Or and so it goes on. Then you get marks later on, and then you go to work. You get paid if you do well, and it even works with advertising. Take this pill and you'll feel great, and it doesn't work that way. And you'll feel great for some time, and of course it helps against a headache or other causes. Yes, it works for a while, but it doesn't take the cause away.
So we're rewarded for learning in a box,
Yeah.
a socially acceptable box. And if your thoughts and feelings don't fit in that box, then you fall out of place in
No.
society and you feel like you don't fit the rest of the world. And then you end up being a rebel or a drug addict or
Yeah.
alcoholic because you were taught that if you don't fit in this box, then you don't fit in society. And that is, it's a sad realization that we live with this sort of conditioning that hinders our creativity, and it keeps people in a it kind of keeps a lot of people in despair because they feel like there's
Yeah,
something wrong with them,
there
that they
isn't.
don't think like everybody else should be thinking. They weren't rewarded as a kid for fitting in this social box. I really like it. You had put a couple of excerpts in your book
Hmm.
from TED Talks. And I
Hmm.
really like these two. One from Anthony Metivier. I'm probably saying that wrong.
Hmm.
Um, to easily remembered questions that silence negative thoughts. And I think
Hmm.
this is
Oh yeah.
really, really helpful for anybody just learning this technique and really starting to pay attention to our thoughts along the way. If you have a thought, ask yourself, is it helpful? One, and how does it behave? Two. And the other one, you had mentioned Rupert Spira.
Rupert Spira, yeah.
Yes. And he had said, look at every thought and you get, does this thought come from happiness? If yes, then you can trust it. If this thought aims for happiness, then it is ego.
Or from the
Take a
brain,
pick,
yeah.
any of them will work. It'll be astonishing. So, um, let's talk a little bit about how does it aim for happiness, then it's ego. Can you clarify that a little bit?
Yeah. We are all taught that we have an ego. And yes, we do, of course. That's that construct, part of that construct we create for ourselves. And I have a lot of thoughts about who is Swier. And you also have a lot of thoughts who's Beth. And you do some stuff, you will do some stuff, will not do some other stuff. And it doesn't matter what it is, but that defines you more or less. And that's one of them. And the ego is how you feel about that. Do you think this is okay about it for me? This is me. And that also is a construct of all kinds of conclusions, associations, understandings, and we can have those wrong. I notice with me, for myself, I have a lot of stuff wrong. And well, my wife and I, we are together now for 40 years, and I'm still learning after 40 years. I'm still seeing that I'm doing things wrong in our relationship, and that helps me getting attentive of how I act in certain situations. And that helps me also to tame that ego. Because when I follow my ego, I want to do this and it's me and this is all in my interest. Yes, but there's someone else in my relationship or in my house as well. And I have to take that into consideration. We have to live here together. Otherwise, we'll fight each other out of the house, probably. And it's so important that you start to understand that we can take a little bit of a distance to our thought. If you just look at your own thoughts from a little bit of a distance, you can certainly suddenly see, wait a minute, this might not be very productive more for my other partner, or this might be very productive for me, but it might not be productive for my partner. She might not like this. Hmm, do I want that? Well, we had a similar situation. We have some situation in the family, and we had to drive down the motorway. And I have a very European style of driving. Let's call it that way. And sometimes she gets scared when I drive. So she said, "Well, I already have a lot of stress in my family. Now I don't need the extra stress from your driving." And I said, "Yes, of course. You're right." So I try to behave a little bit more and see that we can, well, get along through this drive with much more at ease, because it will save you a lot of energy, because as soon as you get stressed, you lose energy. So it's that ego you have to watch. And I'm going to have a talk on narcissism quite soon. And when I dove, delved into that, I suddenly noticed, wait a minute, there's quite a few things in narcissism I do too. Oops, am I a narcissist? Well, everyone is in a way, in certain levels.
Hmm.
But I suddenly realized, wait a minute, there's some parts of me, some parts of my behavior which could lead to narcissism. And I know in when I was much younger, there was a colleague who said, Swier, do you want to be such and such a person? And I was shocked when he told me that. I was happy afterwards that he told me, but at that moment I was shocked and said, oh no, I do not want to be such a person. Well, then you have to change your behavior. And that was very good advice, and it helped me not to become a full-scale narcissist. But I could have been. I think
Yeah.
narcissists are created.
Yeah, I believe that. But, when it comes to ego, just ask yourself, how does this affect the other people in my life? And
Yeah,
just keep that in check. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And the great thing is, we have this constant checking what our brain does. Is this still okay? That's how we
Mhm.
make sense of what's going on, and we call that reality.
Yeah.
But we create that in our head.
It's all part of the program
It's
that
all
we
part of
are
the
are
program.
fed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So in chapter 7, titled "We Are Not Our Brain is Not Us," you talk about our big mind and the little mind. Can you
yeah,
walk through that?
yeah. What I found is that um, the big mind, little mind comes from Buddhism, I think. I think they cornered those terms first. And our little mind is your ego. Let's call it that, or your self program. Let's call it that way. And that's what you do all the day, and it helps you get through a lot of stuff. But when you want inspired ideas, or want to be creative, or want to be loving, for instance, you need a different way of thinking, a different quality of thinking. And I don't know whether you have ever, we did in the past, we did those brainstorm sessions where people would say, okay, let's try to find something new. But you never get at a brainstorm session if you stay in the thinking you are in already. You have to get out of that thinking. And the only way that works is to notice that you are still in your traditional thinking. And then you have to, and what I sometimes do with people I coach, I say, okay, give me 70 new ideas of how to do this. Well, after 30 or 40, they're spent and they don't have another. I said, carry on. I want to see 70 ideas. And then they get well, exhausted at some stage because they don't know what to do. And they come up with all kinds of crazy ideas. And then you get what you need, because then you get ideas which are not connected with the problem you were working on.
Mm.
And the funny thing is, we all have these moments, for instance, when, in the morning, when you have a shower. I get my best ideas. I used to get my best ideas in the shower in the morning. Because what you do is you relax at that stage. You do not think, because you're just enjoying the warm water on your body. And then suddenly your brain really starts working, and your ideas come. And oh yes, of course, that's how I solve it. Or you take a walk, and the ideas come to you, because you are at that moment, you are not thinking about what's worrying you. The trick is using your big brain, is letting go of your small brain.
And that's how we practice doing nothing
Yeah,
to get ahead.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely.
Final question.
Hmm.
Your last chapter is titled, So what does all this have to do with resilience?
Yeah.
So let's bring it all together.
Okay. Um, the funny thing is, when we talk about resilience, we think about a method or a way of doing things or a program or a technique or something like that. And it's not about a technique. It's about being aware that you are aware and look at what's happening in yourself with some distance, and you can see what's happening. We can look at our own thoughts. If you can try it for yourself. You, for instance, you're in the grocery shop, and you're thinking about, oh, now I have to think about what I need for next week or something like that. And that's already where you are taking distance from your thinking. Now, because it is looking at the process itself. And when you do that, you suddenly see that the thinking you habitually do is not always as practical and functional and effective as you would like it to be. And once you start doing that, you suddenly find, wait a minute, I can do this better. I can improve myself. And the funny thing is, once your thinking starts, your feeling changes. And when your feeling changes, your habits change all by themselves. And you don't have to do anything for it. It just happens. And that's the beauty of it.
I love that. And something that helps me a lot, just practicing awareness of what my thoughts are so I could sort things out, is writing, journaling,
Mm-hmm.
especially on days that I'm not feeling my best. I have a lot of negative thoughts. Just get them out and get it on paper. You could see it for the falsehood that it is. Uh,
Yeah.
and sometimes you could write something on clear paper and then you can look at it and go, that's not real. That's that's completely
Nonsense,
uh,
maybe. Yeah.
yeah. So writing helps me a lot.
There are all kinds of techniques you can use and you can devise them yourself because we are all individuals. We have our own individual way of doing things. And nobody does that in the same way. That's also what Sid says. We are all sitting in the midst of mental health. We just don't know it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because and I laugh of the irony, not of the seriousness of the subject, but mental health is something that concerns everyone in the world. And it's as far as my generation anyways, it's been swept under the rug and been given a prescription drug instead of actually dealing with what causes mental health. And it really goes back to what you were saying about um, looking at, instead of looking at the behavior, looking at the behavior as the symptom of whatever problem it is.
Yeah, and
And
what you're
and
creating.
the drugs that are prescribed kind of deals with the symptom, the behavior, but it doesn't help with the elements that created that behavior.
No, absolutely.
And sometimes medication is appropriate
Oh,
need
yes.
when somebody needs it, it's there, but first and foremost, we need to really look into our thoughts and what is holding us in that thought pattern. Because what I really appreciated your book is is the breakdown of why. our thoughts are just a program. When I went to college for IT, I learned more about how the brain works than any therapy session I've ever had because our computer systems were created out of what we learned from cognitive function.
Absolutely.
So we are literally just a basic OS that is operating on programs that's been stacked on top of that OS. And it's
Absolutely.
completely changeable, but
Yeah.
you can't change anything without being aware of where your thoughts are coming from.
Yeah.
So I think this way of thinking is a lot more beneficial than just focusing on your behavior because I remember before I got my second diagnosis of cancer, I was trying to quit smoking for a long time.
Hmm.
And I just beat myself up. Why do I keep smoking? I want to stop smoking. But the smoking was just a behavior I was holding on to because I didn't want to let go of things in the past. So in looking at that, I think it would be helpful anybody that's wanting to change a behavior, a bad habit, or just generally try to be a better person,
Hmm.
practicing mindfulness and being aware of why you're thinking the thoughts that you're thinking and where they come from makes a difference in how you're going to make the next step going forward.
Yes, it does. But you must look out that you're not over um, analyzing.
Do that a
Because
lot.
yeah, well, we all do that a lot, and I'm still a student of this stuff. I'm still learning. I'm still developing this, and I'm still working with this, and I'm still making mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes, but as soon as I start beating myself up, but for the fact that I made mistakes, I'm not going to learn anymore. So I look at myself with some compassion. Oh yeah, I messed up there. I shouldn't do that. Yeah, let's try again. And it's the same with smoking. If you stop smoking and after 3 or 4 days you pick up a cigarette again or anything else you would like to smoke, don't beat yourself up because of the fact that you didn't stop smoking. No, try again. It's the same with a child that learns to walk. They fall on their faces again and again and again, and they try again. The average person, the average adult who tries to learn something new gives up after 3 efforts. A child tries it 500 times on average. Why? It gives them freedom. Once they can walk by themselves, they are free to move anywhere. And when you are free of your own thinking, you get free about what to do with your thinking. Isn't that beautiful?
I love it. That's a good place to end. This has been a great talk, but let me I'm going to put all your links in the description below so people can find you. But um, do you have any idea when your book is going to be released so that we can share that with everybody?
I don't know yet. I'm almost halfway. I have envisaged some 20 chapters in that book, and I haven't written them all yet, as you have seen. Um, I don't know, really, I don't know. And the funny
Well, no
thing is,
pressure.
no,
You let me know when it's released. I'll
absolutely.
let everybody else know. Now,
Okay.
you focus on business coaching, correct?
Yes, mainly yes. I also have do also personal coaching. Yeah, yesterday I started with a young man who's there's a lot of aggression in his, and he's well rebuilding his house all the time, which is not very constructive. Um, and we had a wonderful conversation for 1.5 hours just about his experience about that. And I said, well, yeah. it's just a habit. You've developed a habit of destroying your house really just by being frustrated. Why do you do that? It's not constructive. And then they start wondering, yeah, well, yeah, but that's how. So I know what happened sometime in your past. This was successful. It helped you get through a certain situation, but now it doesn't anymore. So why do you keep running the same program? And that's very often it's also with people in leadership roles. They've learned to do leadership in a certain way, and they try to do it again and again and again, and then they fail to notice that it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And then say, wait a minute, does this work? No, it doesn't. Well, why do you keep doing it then? Maybe not so practical. Shall we try and find a new way to do this? Yeah, that might be a good idea. No, then we can carry on and we'll see what happens. And I don't know what happens beforehand, of course, but because everyone's different. Everyone has his own way of treating life. And that's okay. That's fine. We should, because we're all individuals. We're all different, which is great.
Yeah, we're all unique and different in our own special way. Well, I have enjoyed this talk with you. I know we've gone on a little long today, but great talk, and I really appreciate you being here to share this with everybody that comes across this video. I hope it's been helpful. I know your philosophies and your thoughts on this matter are very eye-opening, and I appreciate that. So thank you for being here today. And for all my viewers here today, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Beth Talks. And I look forward to the next one where we all share the things that help shape our life for the better, make a better world. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Beth, for the opportunity. I think this is important for anyone to improve their life a little bit.
Absolutely. Well, you have a great day, and
Same to you.
I'll let you know when everything is out and released.
Wonderful. Thank you.
All right. Take care. Have a good day.
Take care.
And for all you lovely viewers out there, thank you so much for tuning in here on Beth Talks. We'll be back here. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. So you also hit that little notification button so you'll be notified when I upload another new video on Beth Talks. Hey, thanks for tuning in this time. And I hope that you found today's episode was really helpful in some way. And I appreciate your time that you took to spend here with me on this podcast. Until next time, stay strong, stay resilient, and peace and love, everybody.